Hey, I know many of you who are church leaders are asking this question. Are there any opportunities during COVID? We've had to grieve so much loss in our churches. We don't know where people are at. They may not be attending. Are they coming back? All these questions that are swirling around. But I kind of want to challenge your focus right now and get you to think about what opportunities is COVID bringing to us and over the next, I would argue, next year or 2 years. And so I'm going to dive into some things that I want to challenge you to be thinking back. Number one, this COVID is giving us a great opportunity, you and your team, to get back to basics. And what I mean by that is that we've come, over the last 10, 15 years of the church growth movement, we've all become a little enamored with the big ideas and the thought leaders and all these things. And we just fundamentally believe it's led to a little bit of silver bullet thinking and a lack of confidence in our pastorate about how do I accomplish the Great Commission. And I would say COVID has given us all an opportunity to get back to the fundamentals and the basics of church activity, why we do what we do in order to create more and better disciples. In ChurchOS, we have this tool called the Great Commission Engine. It's super helpful to level set for a team and get them all aligned. And it just comes back to the fundamentals of why we do what we do in church. So getting your team back to basics right now and really asking the questions as a team, why do we do what we do and how do we need to do it differently in this COVID and post-COVID environment? Number two is, I've made the argument, there's a couple things. Because of our dependence as church leaders on the institution of the church, I think we've missed some latent potential that is tied up in all of our churches right now. And that is, many of us have heard the strategy of invest and invite when it comes to relational evangelism. I think in this season of COVID, the invite is off the charts. I don't know about you and your neighborhood. I know way more of my neighbors, and I'm an introvert, so it freaks me out a little bit. But I know way more of my neighbors today than I did before. And in fact, at Halloween, we had several who came by. Yes, we were socially distanced. Who came by for Halloween and trick or treat. So the question for you as a church leader, how are you leveraging the investment of that your people are making in their friends, neighbors, coworkers right now in this moment? There is a great harvest to be had if we can strategize around it. The third thing we're going to add here is really thinking through and cleaning up your ministry buffet. And what we simply mean by that, we're good Vegas boys, so we're very familiar with the buffet. We're unsure if it's going to come back. They've been shut down in Vegas right now. But the ministry buffet is simply the way we define it. It's the accumulation of programs and ministries over an extended period of time. So if you're in a simple church model or church plant, you probably haven't accumulated those. But if your church has any age on it, you probably have various ministries that have accumulated. And this is a season under the cover of COVID that you can pull back and minimize some of those and maybe even make the decision for some of those that are paused to not bring them back or bring them back in a new way. Again, I would say align back to the fundamentals of Great Commission accomplishment. And we do have a tool inside of ChurchOS. We actually named it the Ministry Buffet Tool. To help you and your team have a good conversation around this prioritization. The next thing I would say for all of us as an opportunity is experiment digitally. And for the first time in modern church history, we don't really have teaching churches that are so far ahead of the curve that they've got it figured out and we can go import or dial in from what they are doing strategically with their digital platforms. Now, I would say there are some front runners out there, and they're not all the typical churches we would have gone to pre-COVID to learn about digital. But some of the things we've learned about is that if you try to replicate digitally what you were doing physically, that's not the best way to get digital engagement. And so giving yourself, your team permission to carve out budget, time, strategizing around experimenting on the digital side right now, that would be an opportunity because I think going into the future to reach someone under the age of 40, this is going to have to be a key strategy of the church. again, tied back to the fundamentals and the basics. And then finally, this is not one you might have thought of before, but COVID has given us an opportunity to align language. And in working with churches, one of the very first things we realize is there are buzzwords that are oftentimes have different definitions and meanings. So typically we'll talk about mission and vision. If you ask a group of pastors, what's the definition of vision? They might give you 10 different answers in a room of 10 pastors. Another word that's a buzzword, discipleship. And discipleship can mean various things and can be a heated conversation. And so in this moment, you have an opportunity to align your team's language. What do we mean when we say X, Y, or Z, and getting that clear? And that is a fundamental of Church OS, where we work hard to align the language of a team, not just at the staff level, but into the volunteer leadership level. And so here's 5 ways that we think there's opportunity right before you in COVID to be experimenting and trying to get your team through to this next season. And I hope it's been helpful to you. If you want to find out more about partnering with us and some of the tools I mentioned, check us out at intentionalchurches.com.